In 2 minutes, America changed forever.
But what really happened during those?
September 11th, 2001. It began like any other Tuesday. The skies over New York City were perfectly clear, and millions of Americans were starting a normal day. Thousands of people entered the World Trade Center, never imagining that these ordinary moments would soon become part of history. At airports across the East Coast, 4 commercial airplanes prepared for routine cross-country flights. Nothing seemed unusual. But hidden among the passengers were 19 men carrying out one of the deadliest terrorist plots ever planned. Within minutes, all 4 aircraft were in the air, heading toward destinations on the west coast of the United States. Air traffic controllers watched hundreds of flights on their radar screens. Everything appeared completely normal. Then, something unexpected happened. One aircraft suddenly stopped responding to radio calls. Controllers tried again and again to contact the cockpit, but there was only silence. At first, officials believed it was only a technical problem. No one imagined what was about to happen. High above New York, one aircraft had already changed course, moving directly toward Manhattan. Below, the city continued its morning routine, completely unaware that disaster was only minutes away. At 8:46 a.m., everything changed forever. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At first, many people believed it was a tragic accident involving a passenger aircraft. Television stations interrupted their regular programming as live images spread across the nation. Firefighters, police officers, and paramedics rushed toward the towers without knowing what awaited them. Inside the buildings, thousands searched for exits while emergency crews began climbing upward. Then, just 17 minutes later, another aircraft appeared over Manhattan. Millions of viewers were watching live when the unimaginable happened. United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower, confirming that America was under attack. In just moments, confusion turned into fear across the entire country. Airports across the United States immediately began responding to an unprecedented emergency. For the first time in history, officials prepared to stop every civilian flight in American airspace. But the crisis was far from over. 2 more hijacked aircraft were still in the sky. As New York struggled to understand the unfolding disaster, another hijacked aircraft was racing toward Washington, D.C. At the Pentagon, thousands of military and civilian employees continued their normal workday, unaware of what was approaching. At 9:37 a.m., the aircraft struck the Pentagon, creating another national emergency. Within minutes, emergency responders from across the region rushed toward the scene. Across America, people gathered around televisions, desperately searching for answers. Then, another frightening report arrived. A 4th hijacked aircraft was still in the air. The passengers aboard United Airlines Flight 93 learned about the attacks through phone calls with their families. They realized their flight was also part of the attack. Together, they made a decision that would become one of the greatest acts of courage in American history. The passengers fought back, preventing the aircraft from reaching its intended target. At 10:33 a.m., Flight 93 crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Their sacrifice saved countless lives and became a lasting symbol of courage, unity, and resilience. Back in New York, firefighters had already climbed dozens of floors, determined to rescue as many people as possible. Police officers guided frightened civilians through smoke-filled streets, trying to keep everyone moving to safety. Every minute, the situation became more dangerous. Then, at 9:59 a.m., the South Tower suddenly collapsed. Millions watching live television could hardly believe what they had just seen. Rescue teams continued their mission despite the unimaginable danger. Thousands of survivors were evacuated from Lower Manhattan. Emergency workers searched tirelessly for anyone still trapped. Yet one tower was still standing. Rescue crews continued climbing, hoping to save more lives before time ran out. At 10:28 a.m., the North Tower also collapsed. In just 102 minutes, the skyline of New York and the course of history had changed forever. As the dust slowly settled, thousands of first responders immediately began one of the largest rescue operations in American history. Firefighters, police officers, and volunteers searched tirelessly, hoping to find survivors. Hospitals across New York prepared for thousands of injured victims. Across the nation, Americans stood united in shock, grief, and determination. President George W. Bush addressed the nation, promising that those responsible would be brought to justice. Air travel across the United States came to an unprecedented halt. Security procedures changed almost overnight. New laws and counterterrorism measures reshaped the country's approach to national security. The attacks also changed international politics for decades to come. Around the world, millions expressed sympathy and support for the American people. The bravery of first responders became a lasting symbol of courage and sacrifice. But one question still remained. Who planned the attacks and why?
Within hours, the FBI launched the largest criminal investigation in American history. Investigators collected thousands of pieces of evidence from the disaster sites. Every phone record, flight manifest, and surveillance image became part of the investigation. Authorities quickly concluded that the attacks had been carefully coordinated over many months. The investigation revealed an international terrorist network operating across multiple countries. In response, the United States launched a global campaign against terrorism. New intelligence agencies expanded cooperation with allies around the world. Airports introduced stricter security measures that travelers still experience today. The attacks reshaped aviation, security, and international relations around the world. For millions of Americans, life would never feel quite the same again. Every year, families, survivors, and first responders gather to remember those who were lost. More than 2 decades later, the lessons of September 11th continue to shape the world we live in today. In the months that followed, New York faced one of the greatest rebuilding efforts in its history. Thousands of workers dedicated years to rebuilding not just buildings, but the spirit of an entire city. A new symbol of hope began to rise above the New York skyline. Today, One World Trade Center stands as a reminder of resilience, courage, and renewal. Beside it, the 9/11 Memorial honors every life lost on that unforgettable day. Every name represents a family, a dream, and a story that will never be forgotten. Each year, people from around the world gather here to remember, reflect, and pay their respects. The events of September 11th changed aviation, security, and international relations forever. But they also revealed extraordinary courage in ordinary people. Their bravery reminds us that even in humanity's darkest moments, hope can still endure. History is not only about tragedy, it is also about the strength to rise again. And that is why, more than 2 decades later, September 11th remains one of the most defining moments in modern history.